Okay, looks like Zoom is cooling down now. So let's get started with today's meetup. So welcome everyone. Thanks for joining. My name is Didier. I'm the technical lead for the HPE developer community. Today we have our first meetup of the year, and I'm very pleased to have Srikanth with us. We have two more speakers. Hopefully they will join before their part of the talk comes up. But anyway, we're going to talk about a deep dive into the HPE Private Cloud AI software stack. And I know Srikanth will talk about the stack. And I know that the Thiru and Dirk were going to talk about some implementations that already have been built with Private Cloud AI. So hopefully we get them before the end of the session. So let's get started with a few housekeeping items, I call them. But this is more like to understand that the HPE developer community has a number of programs. We call this Scaling Up. And we run 3 webinar series per month. This one is a meetup. So we have this session in January, and we have 2 more sessions coming up. Generally, meetups are in-depth technical on a particular technology. And you can see that in February, we'll be talking about HPE GreenLake webhooks. And in March, we will be talking about eBPF. So if you're interested by these topics, I know Denis from the team is going to paste some links in the chat or in the Q&A, so you can register to some of those. The March are not yet available for registration, but they will be on the same page here on the campaign/meetup page. We also run another program called the Munch and Learn. Actually, we started with this one. That was the first one we started. And this is more like thought leadership and product and vendor agnostic. We have a talk planned for February 19th, talking about a use case for private cloud AI as well on fraud detection. So I think that's going to be a very practical session and done by Jordan Nanos from HPE. I really encourage you to join that one. It's available for registration. The next one will be, and this is directly in relation with this talk, because it's the HPE IT team is going to talk about their ChatHPE implementation, which I think we're going to talk a little bit about today. But this will go, the entire session will be dedicated to this implementation. So again, if you're interested by private cloud AI, that's a good talk. The registration page is not yet open, but it will be soon on the same campaign Munch and Learn page. Finally, we created a new series in September called AI Jam, keeping it real with AI Jam series. And this is more, it's a different format, while the other ones are more like a traditional webinar. This one is more like a panel discussions with a bunch of experts from HPE. We had already 5 or 6 sessions. You can find all the replay of the meetup, the Munch and Learn, on their respective pages. Same for the AI Jam. Anyway, we have a session planned for February 12th that will be talking about inferencing at the edge, from Earth to space. So I really encourage you to join. If you are going to check that link and trying to register, bear with me, I don't have the final abstract for it, so you will see a TBD, but the registration page is already open for that. All right, so that's for scaling up with webinars. We have another thing I'd like to talk about called workshops on demand, because this is a great way also to skill up with hands-on experience. So we started this workshop on demand platform and framework, we call it a framework, for the COVID and pandemic days, because we wanted to be able to deliver workshops for events such as Discover, Tech Jam, and those events. And we use and we kept it since then as an on-demand experience. So it's basically a bunch of workshop available from a catalog. We deliver that through Jupyter Notebook experience. It's available 24/7, free of charge. And available to anyone. So feel free to give it a try and provide feedback if you do, because we really like to know what you like, what you didn't like, and more important, what are the gaps that we should work on to add to the catalog. You can find, just to give you examples, Python programming, 2 different workshops on Python programming, Rust programming, but also things like Docker 101, Kubernetes 101, Git 101. So lots of open source things, and also HPE products such as OneView, such as the GLP, Clean Lake APIs, the Sustainability Insights Center APIs, and so on and so forth. So it's a great way to get your hands on technology. Just a final word, the developer community is a community, so we need help from you to amplify and contribute when possible. So don't hesitate to of course, join our talk and join more of our talks, but also invite friends. This is an open audience, so you can invite colleagues, customers, of course, students, anyone, they can join. We have a monthly newsletter to keep up with what we do. You can sign up for that. We send the newsletter at every beginning of the month. We also have our own dedicated Slack workspace for developer focus discussions. And there's a lot of different channels, 50 channels to discuss problems and try to find answers. Feel free to join to help people and answer questions, but also to raise your issues and concerns. We have an X account called HPE_developer that you can follow. And if you're an SME, we'd like to hear from you, because there's a number of things you can help with. We always on the lookout for blog writers, so you can contribute writing a blog. We have a pretty simple system where I would say within a week you should be up and available online. We have a CMS that is a content management system that is open source, and all we really require is a GitHub account. So you can easily contribute a blog on the subject that you're an expert with. And we can also use your subject matter expertise to build another meetup, for example, like this one, or build another workshop on demand if you think there's a gap in our catalog. So reach out to us, always happy to talk with SMEs. If you want to know more about the dev community, you can find us on the web, of course, developer.hp.com. We have that dedicated Slack, hpdev.slack.com. We have internal Slack for the HP employee. Feel free to join that one. This is the best way to stay up to date with what we deliver. It's called ask-HP Dev Community. We open one for the partners to replace the Yammer that is now gone. So it's called the community HPE Developer Community External. You can subscribe to the newsletter. You can send us a mail, the X handle, and the workshop on demand catalog. So feel free to scan that QR code to get all those links in one place. And with that, I'll hand it over to Srikanth for the real content of that session. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Didier. That's one impressive lineup of topics that you have. One from edge to space or earth to space, edge inferencing. Really interesting topic. I may sign up for some of these topics myself. It's great stuff. So with that said, I think let's just get started here very quickly. Good morning, everybody. Hopefully everybody can see my screen here momentarily. Okay. Perfect. Okay. Excellent. Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're dialing in from. Really appreciate you taking the time today. I know it's a lot to take in, and it's a lot of time to ask from you, but I really appreciate that you're here. My name is Srikanth, and I'm the Director of Product Management for HPE AI software stack within Private Cloud AI inside Hybrid Cloud Business Unit. And the topic of today, which I'm really passionate about, is digging deep into AI stack, software stack. Essentially putting that in the context of the value that we are delivering for AI initiatives for enterprises through this new HPE private cloud offering. That's going to be the topic for the day today. So here is a quick look at the agenda. Very briefly, we'll talk about what's going on in the market. There's lots happening when it comes to AI. There is something new. Somebody is always in the news. Big news, small news, regardless, the space is so dynamic. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then we'll shift the conversation to what is private cloud AI, and what's exactly inside the software stack that we are providing and the value that we are bringing to the table. Um, I'm a big believer of fewer slides, more show and tell demo, so you can actually see the product in action. So we will have a live demonstration of the product. Fingers crossed, this is a live system. So we'll do a live demonstration. Then we also have a couple guest speakers. Hopefully, we'll have both of them online very shortly here to talk about real world use cases, right? So we are seeing a lot of interest within enterprises for both traditional AI and generative AI. So we want to spend a little bit of time so you can hear, what we are hearing from customers and the use cases that the customers are adopting, the challenges that they're running into, and how are we helping them get past those challenges and see more business outcomes, right? And then we'll wrap it up. So that's the agenda. Obviously, lot to digest here. Uh, just to get started, right? I mean, ChatGPT, it seems like, it was a long time ago when ChatGPT came, but it was just 2 years ago, right? Everybody, including their mothers, are using ChatGPT. In fact, my kids, one of their favorite apps, believe it or not, on their phone is ChatGPT. And they're just 7, right? Anytime they want to know answers about, questions that they run into, they go, interact with those applications. So AI has become very, very pervasive, right? And the ChatGPT, especially, I keep bringing it up is because it resonated with so many people, right? Because of the simplicity, you had a very simple chat interface in front of a very powerful model. Anybody could interact with it without realizing that they are actually using AI or interacting with artificial intelligence, so to speak, right? Behind that simplicity, right, there's a lot of complexity that's hidden away, right? To make all of these models, three things had to come together, right? It's the perfect storm. You needed lots and lots of data, which we right now have in the entire world, right? You need, powerful systems with GPUs. Then you need great algorithms, right? And Transformer is a great example. 2017, when that paper came out, attention is all you need white paper. If you haven't read that, I strongly encourage, you go read up that white paper. That kind of changed the landscape of everything that we know or do about AI, right? Generative AI, that was genesis for everything that we know about all these, state-of-the-art foundation models that we're seeing in the market today, right? And that, of course, resulted in a lot of enterprises and industries, and everybody started thinking about how do they leverage the power of AI in whatever that they're doing, whether they're building customer relationship, customer support use cases, or retail, improving the retail experience, or for educational purposes, what have you, right? There are hundreds of use cases where this became all of a sudden, AI became more and more accessible. And we started seeing more of explosions, started in 2022 by ChatGPT. Very soon, enterprises, went to the cloud because that's the easiest way to get started, especially if you're experimenting with AI, generative AI, wanting to learn about, how the impact that it can have. The easiest thing to do is obviously go to cloud and start, using the cloud hosted models, GPT models, other models, and use their API to interact with those models, right? And once you start, realizing the benefit of Gen AI, last year we saw a lot of enterprises shift their focus towards how do we bring the same generative AI technology in-house and stand that up on an infrastructure that they wanted to build in-house and move on, right? And so that's what we saw. And obviously, the talk of the town today is all about agents, right? Yes, large language models are great, but they're not smart enough. You need more smarts built on top of it to be built on top of it. This is where the agents come in, right? To make the whole LLMs and large model more dynamic through their ability to observe the environment, react with or interact with the end users or other applications or other agents, so to speak. So agentic AI is the next evolution in that space, or so we thought, right? So we saw some big announcements that came out last week from OpenAI, especially with OpenAI Operator. And just last 2 days, I know everybody's talking about DeepSeek R1 models, right? How great they are and how economically the DeepSeek company built those models with powerful algorithms and training methods and so on and so forth. And obviously that had a big impact on the stock market as well, right? We are seeing the ripple effect of the new technology enhancements on everyday lives as well, right? Now, if all of this excitement is so great, the challenge is like, yes, I mean, a lot of enterprises, everybody is, experimenting with generative AI. You can see some numbers here. But what is so interesting for me is, what's happening on the right-hand side, right? Yes, there is a lot of interest, there is a lot of pilots, a lot of proof of concepts that are happening, but very few of those, pilots are actually going into production. In fact, 9 out of 10 projects fail and one succeeds. And if even when one succeeds, it takes a very long time, to go from a basic pilot to a fully operational AI initiative that enterprises can actually see the value from, right? It's too long, 9 months. It's almost as if like you're losing the competitive edge by going with this approach, right? And this is what is baffling us. And I talk to customers all the time, trying to understand what is going on in their environment. Why are we seeing this kind of a disconnect between the interest versus the reality, right? And it turns out, standing up operationalizing AI or generative AI is really, really hard, right? One thing that we all took for granted was, hey, ChatGPT runs in the cloud, has a nice, simple chat interface that I can interact with it. It must be really simple to bring that and put it on premises, right? So that's the basic assumption. But the reality is, like, you see the number of boxes that you see here, right? All of these boxes has to come together for any enterprise to have a meaningful, implementation that is truly enterprise ready, that is truly secure, that you can scale within your enterprises, right? Starting from model and data management, including, hey, how do I bring the large language model? How do I host it? How do I feed my enterprise private data? And how do I tweak it, tune it to a specific use case that I want it to work for? And how do I observe that it is doing well? And then you start thinking about, the safety and governance aspect of it, which is, hey, how do I make sure that it is not saying something that it shouldn't be spitting out, right? Toxicity, bias, or leaking sensitive private information, and so on and so forth. Many things have to be factored in. And then comes, sorry, let me just go back. Then comes the agent part of it, right? If the world is moving towards agents. So when you start bringing agents in the mix, you need to start thinking about how do I build agents and how do I build network of agents that is very secure in interaction, right? And how do I put guardrails around all of this? And then eventually you need some kind of a platform runtime that makes all of this implementation secure, scalable, and gives you an opportunity to observe what's happening in the system. So this is one of the reasons why enterprises are finding it so hard to sort of like put all of these things together. And then when you get past all of that, there are 1,000 different tools that you can pick and choose from. And oftentimes, there is a new tool that comes every day, and then that adds more to the confusion, right? Which is the right tool for my job? How do I make sure that these tools are secure? They can interact, interoperate with one another, and so on and so forth. So it's a hugely challenging task for enterprises, right? Lifecycle management, security. There's so many things that enterprises have to really think about when they have to really operationalize their AI or generative AI initiatives inside their own premises. And this is one of the reasons why we see a lot of customers, run into these challenges like, hey, which model do I choose from? How should I host it? How do I make sure my, private IP is not, shared externally, accidentally or otherwise? Do I have the right skill set to go build all of these things in-house? That's another challenge that we are seeing because this area is moving so fast. Oftentimes, you may not necessarily find the right, skill set in-house, and acquiring those skills takes time. And when you're doing that, you're actually losing a competitive advantage of standing up one of these solutions and seeing the business benefits from AI, right? And then scale, right? And yes, it's one thing to sort of like think about pilots. When you're doing pilots, these are small initiatives. You don't think about, what would it take to go to the next level when I start, thinking about operating at scale. And this is one area where we will double click on with our own, use case that we have inside HPE, ChatHPE. Thiru will come in and talk about it, right? They started with a small pilot and ambitious goal of scaling it very, very large. You'll see a lot of different problems at scale, which you don't normally see when you're doing small use cases, pilot phases. It's important consideration, right? And then the cost, right? If you think about agents, what's going to happen with agents? Agents interact with other models and they iteratively evaluate the responses. So that means the inference cost keeps going higher and higher and higher, right? You need to be mindful of all of that. So what we heard from customers is that, hey, look, I really want to operationalize AI, generative AI. The key here is I want to take that, AI, and attach it to a business outcome, and I want to do it faster. I want to make sure that it can scale. It is truly enterprise ready. Security is a table stake. I cannot have an AI initiative without security controls. So that's super important for me. And then above all, I want to make sure that, I have a predictable way of containing the cost, right? So this is what we heard from customers, and the result is we introduced HPE Private Cloud AI last June in 2024 at Discover, right? At Discover, it was announced. The goal was of Private Cloud AI. This is a co-engineered system with NVIDIA. We partnered with NVIDIA. We are partnering with NVIDIA very heavily. This is a turnkey, first of its kind, a turnkey AI solution, completely co-engineered from scratch. It's a turnkey appliance. When I say turnkey appliance, it is a building block that we deliver, right, from hardware, server, storage, networking, and the AI software stack, that everything that you need to get started very, very quickly, right? In many ways, we tend to think of this as a easy button for generative AI or AI use cases, Gen AI in a box, if you can think of it that way. The goal is we want to deliver, we want to give a very intuitive, easy experience for end users so you can get very productive. And data is very big. So obviously giving you self-service access to all the data that you need to build, train models, or whether you're deploying a large model and feed enterprise private data, putting data at your fingertips so you can use it very, very quickly, and then doing it all with enterprise grade security, and delivering it through a cloud managed experience, whether it is lifecycle management of this box, constantly giving you newer tools that as and when they become available, and doing a lifecycle management, automated lifecycle management through the cloud, and so on and so forth, right? So we give a very frictionless experience through Private Cloud AI. That is the genesis of it, just to give a very easy button for enterprises to simply take the box and get started with their AI initiatives without really worrying about all the infrastructure that they need to put together, all the tools that they need to bring to the party, and so on and so forth. We do the heavy lifting so you can focus more on the outcomes, right? And here are the 4 pillars. I'm not going to go into all of this, but one thing that I want to say here is that the box is so simple. It's when the box shows up in unboxing the HP Private Cloud to running your first workload happens within a matter of hours, right? It's a very complex system. We can plug it into your environment. The rack ships, plugs into your environment, runs a wizard-driven UI, get configured, and within few hours you're ready to go. Ready to deploy your AI workload in a matter of hours, right? And we have a lot of intuitive experience, and that's part of the demo that I'm going to show you, right? Low code, no code experience, persona-driven experience. Make it really, really easy for any AI users to simply come in and start using the box, right? Self-service tools for self-service access to all the data, self-service access to all the tools. It's really very, very intuitive experience. Basically, to take the friction out of users so they can get started, be more productive, right? And then we have numerous data connectors I'm going to show you. You can easily connect to any data source on-prem or in the cloud, bring all of the data, curate the data, and start using the data for whether it is your data engineering task, or whether you're building rack pipelines for generative AI tasks, or whether it is for building traditional machine learning models. We put data at your fingertips very, very easily, right? And then, of course, cloud managed experience. It's everything happens to the cloud. You one click, you can upgrade your entire system. One click, you can upgrade your entire box. You can expand the box if you're running out of capacity. Then obviously we do put more emphasis on security, where complete isolation of different workloads from different users, data security, data RBACs, user RBACs. It's zero trust secure environment that we put together, right? So this is how Private Cloud AI comes together. Now, it comes in different form factors, depending on where you are in your journey. You can get started with a small configuration. Essentially, you can see small, medium, large, extra large. These are the 4 t-shirt sizes that the box comes in. And we deliver the common experience across all of these different appliances, whether you are a enterprise that are just getting started with inference workload, or whether you are a more advanced enterprise looking to do fine tuning of a model in addition to infusing RAG or private enterprise data, the experience remains the same, right? Whether you start with small or go to extra large, the experience remains the same. So I want to spend a few minutes here and talk about the AI software stack, and we'll see more of this in the demo, in just a couple minutes here when I shift over to demo. AI software stack. This is the sort of like, you can think of this as the crown jewel for everything that we are doing inside Private Cloud AI, right? And it's a layered cake approach. 3 layers to the cake. You see at the bottom, we have AI platform foundations. This is everything that you need to sort of, to secure the platform, does the automated lifecycle management, does intelligent resource allocation, whether it's GPU, CPU, memory, node allocations, and all of that, and bring all the observability alerts, notifications, and everything that you need to operate the AI workloads. The next layer in the cake is the software and data foundation. So here we have GPU optimized software. Many of the software tools comes from NVIDIA, and also we have many of the tools that we have curated from HPE. We call that as HPE AI Essentials, curated set of open source tools. But we've blended them together so that you don't have to worry about which tool you're using, but you're more interacting with the curated, intuitive AI workflows that we have built together. Then, of course, we have numerous data connectors that I'm going to show you in a live system. You can see how that comes together. The platform itself is extensible, meaning we have a simple way to onboard any third-party tool or an open source tool. If you don't see a tool in the box that you're so familiar with, that is something that you're interested in using, we have a very simple way of onboarding those tools as well, right? The platform is not rigid, it's built for extensibility. You can compose different applications, tools, and frameworks. And at the top layer of the layer cake is the models, right? We pre-package a bunch of state-of-the-art models that comes from NVIDIA. These are highly optimized models to run on NVIDIA GPU. But we also provide simple connectivity for you to pull down different models from Hugging Face or different data sources, from where you may find a different state-of-the-art model that you may want to bring it into the system, deploy it with one click, and start making it operational. So this is the next clip down of the same layered cake. Goes into a little more details of the components that we have here. As you can see, again, starting at the bottom, security. I talked about role-based access controls. We have different personas that we have defined for Private Cloud AI. Depending on the persona that you as a user belong to, you will see different access controls inside the system, and all of that is handled at the platform layer. Single sign-on experience, GPU resource manage, auto scaling, metrics, storage management, lifecycle management. And the second layer in the layered cake is the AI software and data foundation. 2 large components: NVIDIA component, bringing the state-of-the-art, models, many tools to allow fine-tuning of those models, and also GPU operators that optimize the interaction with GPUs. And the HPE AI Essentials, which is our HPE's IP, it brings in the curated set of tools to be able to sort of bring you the data-ready, AI-ready data management, whether it's building data pipelines or curating the data, or to building models, training, tuning, observing the models in production, and so on and so forth. And then, of course, at the top, we also have some models that, like I said, packaged models that we ship out of the box from NVIDIA. And also we provide what we call as solution templates. We call them as solution accelerators. These are ready to deploy solutions. We provide them out of the box. You can use them as is, or you can use them as a guideline and to build your applications on top of it, right? And with one click, you can deploy those pre-built applications inside the box, or you can take the basic framework that we put together as an inspiration for you to build your own applications that you can deploy on AI platform. And again, going into the next click down here, I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but you can see that it's a very complex system. If you think of what happens under the hood, a lot of tools have to come together to make this happen. Interoperability of these tools is a big challenge for a lot of enterprises, right? How do I make sure that all of these tools have to come together in giving that seamless experience? And how do I do the security lifecycle management, CV, hot fixes, upgrades? we've taken all of that, out of your hands, so you can focus more on the top layer, which is, hey, how do I build applications consuming, how do I deploy, these models? How do I start building applications? How do I start thinking about delivering business outcomes? Again, when the box ships, this is the experience that you would see. It's a simple wizard. You plug the box in, and on the right-hand side, it just brings up a simple wizard. You answer a bunch of questions like, hey, what is your network connectivity? What's your firewall rules? And things like that. Once you feed that information, and the what happens at that point is like the box will be completely integrated into your environment. It connects to GreenLake Cloud, and you will see the box in the GreenLake Cloud. And that allows us to do lifecycle management from the cloud. But as a user, you will start, you are ready to deploy your first workload, right? Like I said, three different personas that we have defined inside the box: cloud admin, AI admin, and AI user. Cloud admin mainly responsible for setting up the box initially and onboarding users, assigning them some roles with who becomes a cloud admin, who becomes AI admin, who's AI user, and so on and so forth. Observability, telemetry, expansion, node expansion, everything is responsible. Cloud admin is responsible for it. AI admin is a persona that lives inside the box, right? If you think of cloud admin as an admin that's sitting on GreenLake and observing the box and setting up and configuring the private cloud AI system, AI admin and AI users are the two personas that operate inside private cloud AI appliance that is delivered on premises, right? So AI admin sets up the data connectivity, sets up the data RBACs, onboards, AI tools and frameworks, and does the GPU allocations and so on and so forth. AI user persona is mostly your data engineer, data scientist, AI engineer, ML engineer, whatever you want to call it, right? These are the people that logs into the system, start building, machine learning models or deploy models, start, curating the RAG pipelines and so on and so forth, right? So we have three distinct personas that we have. Depending on who you are, your experience will vary from persona to persona. Okay. Okay, so with that said, I want to spend a little more time here, showing a live system. So you heard the theory so far, right? Theory is great, but let's dig into the system and see what the system really looks like. And that, I think in many ways, seeing is believing. And also, you can look at the slides, but actually, when you see the product in action, you truly appreciate the value that we bring to the table, right? So I'll go to the demo here. For demo, the context, in addition to everything that I'm going to show, one thing that I really want to focus on is the use case here, right? Today, when we think about ChatGPT is just a chat interface in front of a very powerful model, right? Building a chatbot, so to speak, which is a very common use case. Most enterprises today are looking this as a low-hanging fruit to sort of experiment with their generative AI initiative. Let's just go build a chatbot that any user can interact with the LLM and start interacting with the enterprise private data, right? So that's the goal. But building one of these chatbots is not that simple. It turns out that there are a lot of moving parts that you don't see, right? So here is a good example, right? If you want to put together a chatbot, so you need to sort of like think about, I want a user being able to interact with the enterprise private data. And that all starts with, hey, which is the right model that I need to stand up? Which is the model that I need to host in my own environment? Starts with the selection of a large language model. And then comes like, where is my data? How do I make sure that that data is curated and fed into some kind of a knowledge base that can be retrieved when the user asks a question on the chat interface? You can see here the UI. User is interacting with the chat interface. When the user comes and asks the question about enterprise private data, large language model is not trained on my data. It is trained on a data that's publicly available, internet data, right? It knows nothing about the enterprise private data. So I need to provide that context for what the user is asking about my data. And to be able to provide that context, I have to go build a pipeline that brings the data in and chunks the data, essentially taking a document, and think of chunking as cutting your data into pieces, and then converting those pieces into numbers that can be stored in vector databases. Because large language models don't understand language, they still deal with the numbers and statistics, right? So all your data gets digitized and stored in vector DB. So the information that are related gets stored close to one another, so that when you ask a question, when you're retrieving the data, the documents that are similar in context, not just keyword matching, right? We're not talking about keyword matching here. We're talking about the meaning of data. Those documents that are similar in meaning and context will be grouped together, and that's the purpose of using this embedding model, cutting up the data, storing the data that's meaningfully close to one another, putting them in a vector database, and making sure that that vector database is highly available and reliable and can scale as your users grow and start interacting with more and more with the chatbot, or whether you're feeding more and more data into that vector DB. You need to make sure that the vector DB is truly enterprise ready and can scale. And then when the user comes in and posts a query, you want to be able to retrieve the information that's close to what the user is asking and feed that information quickly to large language models so that it can respond easily, right? So what we've done is, everything that we saw, we've taken all of that. We put the magic happens in this green box. We built a knowledge base that simply takes your data and handles everything else. It gives you an API. So your chat interface simply, interacts with one API interface that we give you. Ask the question, the information, the user information goes to the backend system knowledge base, and we do all the heavy lifting for you, and you get the response back, right? That's the magic. Without you writing a single line of code, you can simply construct a complete RAG pipeline, and you can build a simple, or any complex, application that wants to interact with data in a matter of minutes. Okay. So with that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to switch over to a live system. Now that you have the context, I'm going to show you the product in action, and hopefully, I'm not sure, is this coming through?
Yes, it's coming through.
All right. Okay. So I'm gonna make it quick. In the interest of time, I want to spend a little bit of time for Thiru and case study. So essentially, it all starts with the experience from GreenLake, but I'm gonna jump right into the box that you're seeing. This is the AI Essentials private cloud AI system. User logs in. In this case, the user is me. On the right-hand side, you can see. Hopefully, folks can see. If it is too small, then I can probably make it a little bigger. Hopefully, this is better for folks. Okay, so you can see on my system that I am logged in as me, and I'm a admin, so I get to do a lot more with the box. So we have brought in all the tools that you need, like all the data science tools, data engineering tools, data analytics tools. We have curated the entire system for you, so you don't have to worry about all of these tools. They're all there. And we have also built a very curated experience for excuse me once again. Okay, for different personas. So when you come in, you can see if you're data engineering, you have all your workflows that are completely streamlined. And same thing for your data science. You're mostly interested in building pipelines, experimenting with the various different tools and technologies, algorithms. And then eventually, when you have the models, you put them in model registry, and then you start operationalizing those models. And then, obviously, if you are a generative AI person, you want to be able to sort of deploy models, then, we provide a simple way you can deploy models, get access to these model endpoints that you can share with external users, so they can start interacting with these models that you've already deployed. Or if you want to really feed your enterprise private data, we have this knowledge hub, as we call it, which is essentially constructing the RAG pipeline that I showed in the previous slide. And I'm going to walk you through what that looks like, right? So we provided a complete experience for anybody to sort of come in and build these models, whether it is generative AI models or traditional AI models, or simply bring and curate the data. Just super easy to work with, right? So I'm going to show you one other thing very, very quickly. So here in this experience, you can see that not only we ship a bunch of NVIDIA models out of the box, we also give you a very, very simple way to connect to a registry of your choice, right? If you have models that you want to bring it in from Hugging Face or some other source, sure, it's very easy. You can simply go add your registry from where you want to bring the model in, and then you can keep adding models here in this interface. You can see I can give a name for this one as an example, llama model. and I can say, hey, where is my model? Maybe I want to bring that model from Hugging Face. So then I can go say, yes, I have my Llama model that I want to bring in from Hugging Face. Then, I want to choose some model, that's of interest to me. And then, I can basically say how much resources do I want to assign for that, for the model that I'm bringing in, CPU, memory, GPU, and so on and so forth. And then done, right? That's it, right? Now you have the model that you brought in. And the next thing is we make it super easy for you to deploy those models, right? And then you can create a simple deployment and say, yes, now I have that model that I brought in from Hugging Face. Now let me just go deploy that model, and I can specify a few things like the Llama model that I chose. Whether I want to secure my endpoint that I'm deploying. When I secure my endpoint, then obviously whoever is interacting with that endpoint needs to have a security token. So I can generate a token and hand that token to the individual or application that wants to interact with the model. I can secure it easily. Then I can specify how I want the model to scale, right? I can scale based on some rules like concurrency. There are concurrent requests coming in. I can make some scaling decisions based on that. Or if there are certain number of requests that I'm seeing in a second, then I can make some scaling decisions, auto scaling decisions based on that. I can define n number of things, right? I'm obviously not going to deploy it right now, but it's a very intuitive experience for you. As you can see, you can bring the model. We have models that we package. You can bring any model from outside, deploy them with few clicks, and then you're ready to go, right? And once you deploy these models, you'll see the model endpoints in the system that you can grab and start interacting with it, right? And I can generate, if an application does not have a token, I can easily generate a token, and I can set up a lifetime for how long that token should be lived. And then I can hand the token for an application or an end user, so they can get authenticated when they are starting, when they interact with the model. They get authenticated for validity, and then they can start running their inferences and what have you. Okay. The other big piece that I did not mention was the data connectivity. I spoke a lot about data connectivity in the slides, but we know that enterprise private data is distributed everywhere. So we make it really, really easy for you to connect to any different data sources, whether it's a structured data source, data warehouses, cloud data warehouses like Snowflakes, or on-prem OLTP databases or data lakes and what have you. So we give a very simple, seamless connectivity experience. Same thing, you have object store, you can connect to any of these object stores that you have in your environment, whether it is your own homegrown S3 or AWS Amazon S3 that you're storing all your data on, or for that matter, whether you have NFS systems in your enterprises that you want to hook up to private cloud AI systems and make the data available, you can connect to your data volumes as well, right? Now, going back to the demo part, the Knowledge Hub, and here is a very simple way of building a RAG pipeline. It's very simple. If you are a user and you want to bring your enterprise private data and want to feed that information to your large language model so it gets the context, you don't have to write a single line of code. All we do is give you a very easy, low code, no code experience. You tell us which model that you want to use. You can bring models from Hugging Face. Right now, it's NVIDIA models that we support. You can select the model of your choice, and then you can give it your name, right? Demo, whatever, right? I can just say demo, dev, meetup, anything. Then I can go and say, where do I want to pull the data from? Obviously, you can pull the data from any of the data that is already connected to the system. And in this case, I can simply say, go here in shared volume, whatever, right? I mean, I can select anything. It doesn't really matter. Meetup demo, some data that I want to pull it in, and that's it, right? And then you basically specify, how much resources that you want to set aside for the model that you want to bring up, and whether you want to auto scale down when this RAG application is inactive, nobody's interacting with this RAG pipeline that you built. Scale down the resources so that resources become available for someone else to grab the GPU and do their work. And you also have model sharing. Many people, you build lots and lots of RAG pipelines, but you may still want to use a common large language model as the foundation model that all of these rack pipelines want to share. In that case, you can say, by default, the models are shared. But if you want your own large language model for your rack pipeline that you're constructing, you can simply check the box and you'll get your own model, right? And then, we set up a lot of these different, out of the box defaults, like, how creative you want your responses to be, top P, top K. These are the parameters that you can play with. Lower the temperature means, the responses will be predictable. Higher the temperature means this is your standard LLM behavior, right? If you increase the temperature, then it's an indication for large language model to be more creative in responses, which means your output may become a little predictable, right? Great if you're building marketing content, you want the model to be more creative. But if you're really looking for facts and you don't want your large language model to hallucinate or make things up, lower the temperature is always better. So default setting is low. And then we also give you templates, right? If you're building a rack pipeline, you can say, hey, I'm building a rack pipeline. My end user use case could be a simple, Q&A that they want to, interact with the chatbot for asking simple questions, or they want to build a chatbot that does text summarization. So what we've done is we've created a template. These are system instructions for your LLM, right? Basically saying that, hey, use the context that you're getting from the vector database. Don't make up your own answers. If you don't know an answer, say so. So these are all the prompts instructions that we give to LLM. Of course, you can, these are things that purely available for you to sort of like use this as a template. You can build your own custom template, right? And say, I'm building a chatbot, and here is how I want the context to be set for that LLM. You can build your own template with it, right? Every flexibility is available inside the system. We give you some curated templates, but you can make up your own template, right? And then when you're done, that's it. You hit submit and your rack pipeline will be created for you. And in this case, I'm not going to create in the interest of time. I'm going to show you a one that's already created for you. And in this case, I can simply open up the chatbot that I previously created, or the rack pipeline that I created. And then I can play with it, right? And I can go to playground, and we have this concept of playground, which is essentially to say, hey, I constructed this rack pipeline. Let me see, how effective is that rack pipeline. Then you can start, interacting with it, ask some questions, see if the responses are good enough for you. And if you don't think the responses are good enough for you, then what you can do is you can go back to that, the knowledge hub that you put together, edit it, and you can play with different settings, right? Maybe your large language model, you may want to choose a different language model for your purposes. Maybe your chunking strategy needs to change. You can go back and play with chunking, or you may want to sort of like say, hey, maybe my template needs to change, and therefore I'm going to choose a different template and see how that works. Or maybe I want to play with a different temperature setting and so on and so forth, right? So all the flexibility at your fingertips, right? So I'm going to stop here in the interest of time. And this is a very quick flyby demo of what the HPE private cloud AI software stack looks like. And before I go, I want to show one thing very, very quickly. This is the GPU resource management. So what we've done as part of GPU resource management is that GPU resources are very, very expensive. We all know that, right? Every private cloud AI system comes with a set of GPUs that you can use. But large language models are bigger, so bigger models will consume more GPUs, and therefore you have to be very creative in how the GPU gets allocated and made available, right? So what we've done is as a AI admin, one has complete control over how these GPUs can be allocated for different applications. You can set up priority levels for applications. Higher the priority means that application is more important. And if a lower priority application is using a GPU, that will get preempted. There is another setting that exists in the system. It's called idle system threshold, which is essentially to say if an application has taken up a GPU, and if it is sitting idle for more than the configured amount of time, and if there is a higher priority job that comes in, it can preempt based on these settings, right? So in this case, you can see I have two models that RAG pipeline is currently running. using a Llama model and the embedding model that's currently using the two resources. And you can do a lot of things with this box, right? So, and then finally, I want to show one last thing before we transition over to the case studies here very, very quickly, which is I can go here into my system and I can say I can control who has access to what data. For example, these are the users that are onboarded to the system. Some users are just member users, right? They have very limited privileges. I can go change their privileges, right? As an admin, I can go and say, hey, which knowledge hub they can have access to, right? For example, I have a bunch of RAC data pipelines that I've created. I can restrict who can interact with that RAC pipeline. I can even restrict, who has access to what data inside the system itself, right? As an example. So I can say, this particular user that I've chosen, I can say, yeah, he can have read-only access, or for that, table, he may have no access to another set of table here, so I can do a fine-grained data RBACs in the system as well. Okay, so with that, I'm going to go back to the slide and turn this to case study discussion. I think we have two speakers, and hopefully we'll have some time to talk about it. Do we have Dirk on the line?
No, we don't. We have Thiru that could take over the ChatHPE piece.
Yeah, so let's do this, right? Let's go to global IT case study. Maybe I'll turn this over to you, Thiru. Thiru is one of the architects on our HPE Global IT, and he can talk about how we are operationalizing GenAI use cases inside HPE. Thiru, over to you.
Thank you, Srik. Hello, everyone. Yeah, I'm part of our global IT business units where we provide our platforms as a service, hybrid platforms for hundreds of teams. Let's go to the next slide, Srik. I think if you're presenting, please. Yeah, thank you. All right. So here is our overall from global IT perspective, right? In our container technologies, container platforms, AI, ML platforms, including the most recent PCAI platforms, the scale that we run. We have been using these platforms for close to 5+ years. Most recent addition is that the PCAI, right? So we have done the PCAI pilot story, a few months back before our earlier discovered Barcelona, and we have completed our pilot success stories. We can talk about in our next slide, but before that, as you can see, the scale in which we run here, right? Like 1 billion hits per given day, with ultra mission critical workloads that are running in our HPE landscape, 100,000+ containers, right? Everything we use as a Kubernetes behind the brain bench as an orchestrator, right? And then thousands of node clusters, multi-petabytes of storage, right? We run real at scale, right? On all these technologies, modern technologies for these workloads, right? With that said, we are also expanding our PCAI platform to Srik's point earlier, right? We did with a small scale, but then we are going to expand with our large, extra large expansions to it, most importantly, without impacting our business or application users, right? It's a seamless, integrations, from one small medium, then expand to large without really impacting anything at the business perspective, right? That's the key takeaway for that. The whole point that Srik was mentioning earlier. I just want to highlight that. With that, can we go to the next slide, please, Srik? Yeah. So on here, right? So this is specifically on PCAI, right? So we used to have earlier with our OneAI with Azure platform, right? We have created our ChatHPE for large scale users inside our organization, right? But then what we have done, right? Back in last September, October, we are one of the first inhaler of the PCAI rack, right, in our data center, and we brought that. We learned the platform, right? We brought it as a pilot, right? We stood up within a matter of days over there and install AI essentials and NVIDIA essentials and including the rack capability, right? And also we built our ChatHPE orchestrator engine on top of the PCAI platform using exactly what Srik was just going through a few minutes back on how quickly you can spin up your own chatbots as well as your orchestrator, right? Using the existing rack RAG capability comes out of the box with the PCAI, right? That's exactly what we have explored, and we made that bring it into live with 6,000 plus users testing and validations on the PCAI, and we are going to expand that into 60,000, right? 10 times scale at scale, right? Pretty soon, using our own enlarging our PCAI platform capacity into multi-scale, right? That's one aspect to it. As well as we also did the API interface, if you will think of, right? So we created the API wrapper on top of the PCAI ChatHPE orchestrator or engine, and this API interfaces provides multiple business use cases, workloads that can be consumed through API gateway and get the results from there, right? But what we have observed, right, while we are planning to scale, right, for our own use cases across HPE in our data centers, is that these are the quick wins or benefits or the impacts that we have observed. We also provided the feedback, transparently to our product teams, what is working great and, what needs to improve, things like that. But then overall, right, we have seen, really reduced a lot of OpEx cost in terms of, right, compared to our private cloud lock-in pricing perspective, right? And most importantly, right, how we secure, how we, address our cyber security compliance, right, behind the scene, including to keeping our IPs private, right, as a big secure zone for that, right? How we do resilient, with high availability with multi-data center setup using the PCAI, right, generative AI use cases. Most importantly, it gives us the custom, expansion of the API gateway to expose all the API ecosystems that comes out as running as microservices in our container platform, doing the handshake with the PCAI generative Llama models, if you will think of, right? So that's the big help for us to expand this, not just focus on one specific HPE or a bot perspective into, it's the sky is the limit, right? So we can expand, as many as possible business use cases through the API interface is the way how we are planning to go, right? The way how we scale, right? And specifically, right, it has like much more personalized tweak to it, right? And the GPU, right? Sorry, on the previous slide, Sri. Yeah, one thing I just want to highlight is that I think based on what you mentioned, Sri, earlier, is the virtualization of GPU, right? For the Llama and embedding models, the key benefit to it. What I meant is, when we spend a lot of money on this PCAI stack, how we can make sure that we slice and dice exactly what we wanted to do, right, for our business use cases, right? But most importantly, how optimized way, how precisely we can manage the resources, given that the cost effective, right, model to scale up where and when it is needed, right? That gives that big flexibility for us from the PCAI perspective. That's the real-time experience what we have observed most recently when we evaluated with our pilot use cases, and that's the main reason we are planning to go big in our PCAI and scale up and start supporting tens of our core business use cases that we can see in our next slide. So in this slide, right, some of these use cases that we have tried it recently with the PCAI, which basically, as an example, right, we have a knowledge management, you throw out 100-page document, you want to extract some, let us say, financial documentation, right, and you want to extract something from out of it, right, and that basically provides this knowledge management, which is kind of an AI framework behind the scene, right? It provides this capability through ChatHPE for multiple business units across our organization, right? Another one is the Smart Compare, right, which basically using the Llama model-based comparison tool for our product specification, supply profiles, right, and it goes a lot on that area, right? And also Flow Fusion is another example for creating the business flow diagrams. AI agent is another big one for our automation landscapes, right? Where from operations perspective, how much we can tune with our manual work into automation, right? This plays a big role on the automation side of the house, right? We also have the knowledge translator, right, for multiple region applications, right? And some of the converter agents also we have built it, right? And these are some of the few that we are running already, right, in production, right? But like we are going to expand these use cases, using our PCAI landscape behind the scene for scaling up and go big, right? So if you if you can double click, right, one of these use case that in my next slide that I will highlight it on is that in our HPE financial services, right? We have, we lease out, millions of devices across the globe, right? So we have millions of data we collect from our customers, partners, right? So what we have done using those data, right? We have labeled out all the data, segregated through the data engineering, as Sri was mentioning, from PCAI perspective, right? And then brought the specific ML algorithm and identify the specific patterns using Python scripting as an example. Hey, how, what kind of active credit this customer has it or this partner has it, right? How many partners contract is getting expired in last 1 year, and how our leasing relationship with our partners and customers, right? Getting all that data and identifying the right patterns and creating our model and train that model, right, to predict our scoring, right, for financial and probability scoring for our multiple teams, right? One of the team is our sales and pre-sales community, right? So they get this hot, warm, cold rating based out of this real-time financial services leasing data analysis and prediction model using our AIML platforms, and gives them the secure zone in a fastest way possible, right? When I say that, right, we used to have like Salesforce and other system that used to provide, but that used to take literally weeks and months, right, for some of the data and report that they're looking for, and versus now it's matter of minutes and hours, right? When I say that, it's a real, right? Because we have seen that data that flows and data it collects, the data it trains more and more fine-tuning and gets through the prediction model, gives them the accurate landscape of, hey, this region needs much more your Wi-Fi devices as an example, or your switches as an example. They pile back our supply chain area, bring them ready to sell it out, right? So real-time use cases, if you will think of, right, on a private zone and a secure data in this case, right? Because we are talking about all our finance data, right? And we cannot just go and play around with this public cloud, right? That's the most important piece right here, right? And we don't want to go and expose our IP details, right, to someone else, right? So this PCAI gives that core confidence for us. Number one, to begin securely play around our private confidential data across our business units, and confidently they can, repurpose that data in a fastest way and use that, for our business outcomes, right? That's the key outcome, what we have seen. And as I said, this is just an example. What we have done, we are going to go big, right, in multiple business use cases as we get onto our this PCAI journey, right? I think that's pretty much, I just wanted to convey from our global IT perspective, specifically on PCAI, right? On container, is a core component behind the scene as well, right? Because everything we run all this as a services, API ecosystems, getting into the AI, ML, prediction models and hand over to the business side. So with that said, Sri, back to you. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Well said, Thiru. I think that's one of the key benefits, right? I mean, if you're really concerned about your enterprise private data, you love to operationalize your generative AI, and you're simply looking for a very turnkey, simple experience that I just talked about. Easy to procure, easy to deploy, easy to use. Private Cloud AI is the system, right? And I hope you found this, useful. We'll probably be happy to come back and do more deep dives like this. But I really want to thank, my co-presenters, Thiru. Dirk is not here. We couldn't cover one of the case studies, but that's a very interesting case study about how one German hospital is using Private Cloud AI to solve their genome sequencing challenges, right? What used to take them, months and weeks and months, and now is shrunk down to a few minutes. It's a big, big value that they're seeing. These are just the data, sort of like, think of these are as data scientists, bio data scientists, and so on and so forth. No experience with IT, simply want to focus on medical outcomes. And for them, the huge benefit system like Turnkey experience, like Private Cloud AI, they can focus on building these genome sequences and other things for medical enhancements. Big win. We'll come back and talk more about it. So with that,
yeah, we'll set something up with Dirk directly. And sorry for going over time, but I think the topic deserves half a day. So but we haven't had time to answer many questions, so we'll take them offline. And I would like to remind you that we have a poll coming up to over there for you to provide feedback. And just a last thing is we have a session on March 19. Unfortunately, it's not yet in the registration list. So, but there will be a session on ChatHPE by a colleague of Thiru that will be talking about this. So March 19, we'll get more about the implementation that we've done. And maybe we can get Dirk to attend this one and give a second use case with the hospital in Germany. So I'll work that out. And thank you, both of you, Srikanth and Thiru, for the session. Thank you, everyone, for sticking up with us. Great to see everybody staying here. Topic is quite hot. And have a great rest of your day, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your time.